What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? We have a special guest on the show today. Steve, Bills fan, big Bills fan. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Bryce. Thanks for having me on. Always down to talk football, and even if it's with a rival, but I'm always ready for it. So good to see you.
Yeah. Well, it's been a goal for a few months now to get on a rival fan on, whether that was Bills, Texans, but we finally got one on. Glad to get you on the show. But with the first question, what made you a Bills fan? Let everybody know a little bit about yourself. What made you a Bills fan?
So I moved to Buffalo in 2000 from Montreal. I lived up in Canada for my childhood, basically, and then I moved here. And my dad and I just fell in love with watching the Bills. We just kind of enjoyed it together. It was a father-son thing. He passed about 6 years ago, but watching games with him and watching him get excited because I was excited really made it special. And then once they got good, it became a lot more fun to watch. Even though they haven't won anything big yet, it's still fun to watch them when they're winning a little more than when they're losing more. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this next question might hurt you a little bit, but as a Bills fan, what hurts you most? Wide right or 13 seconds?
wide right wasn't where I was. Are you talking about wide right last year or wide right in the '90s?
Playoffs against the Chiefs.
Okay, so this past
Yeah.
year, 13 seconds hurt a lot more. Um, Wide right this past year was just kind of like disappointing. But 13 seconds, when you think you have it in the bag, and you're literally, as a Bills fan, we were all celebrating, we're just loving life, everything was great, and watching them go down and score a field goal, and then my friend that was watching the game with me, once the Chiefs won the toss, he just said it's over, and we knew it because we knew the Chiefs were going to drive right down the field and score, and the amount of excitement to the level of disappointment in that amount of time was it's hard to match that. So wide right was more just like, damn it, not again. 13 seconds really hurt.
Yeah. I mean, as a Chiefs fan perspective, 13 seconds. I'm sitting here, and I thought I was watching the game, and I thought, that's over. Our season's over. That was the year the Chiefs were struggling, but we still managed to go 12-5, make the playoffs. And I thought you guys had us, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid had Tyreek Hill. They got us down there for the field goal, and then eventually later got that touchdown to seal it up, seal the game up.
Yeah, it was definitely it's one of those games you look back on and you're like, man, well, Josh Allen did everything he could. He put them in a position to win. The defense let him down twice in that game at the end of the game. So, for us, for people there's a lot of hate towards Josh Allen for some reason. And I think that's unwarranted. I think he does turn the ball over a lot, but he also scores a lot. So I think it's one of those things where people need to not put that on his shoulders because he did everything he needed to do to put the Bills in a position to win the game, and then they blew it. So I think it's one of those games that, as a Bills fan, I will never forget, but I'd like to, if that's possible.
What do you think the Bills need to do offensively and defensively to stop Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs?
They need to sack him. He's so, and I mean, Allen's the same way. They're both hard to sack. You get pressure on those guys a little bit. It's not enough. You need to put him on the ground. And I think that's the same thing with Mahomes. You need to see his knees or his butt hit the ground and hear the whistle before you stop playing. And I think there's too many times where people think that Mahomes is down and then he escapes some miraculous pocket and hits you for a dagger, for 20 yards or a first down to seal the game or whatever. So I think putting pressure on him is the biggest thing, but that's easier said than done. So.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs have a great offensive line. I'm looking to see what they are doing at left tackle. There's Wanya Morris and Kingsley Suamataia, and I think both are capable of being a great left tackle. But other than that unknown mystery at left tackle right now, the Chiefs' offensive line is looking pretty good. So it's going to be pretty difficult for any team to get past the offensive line. And even if they do, Patrick Mahomes, he's gonna run all around
He's
in the
Houdini.
pocket and somehow figure out how to throw a touchdown.
Yeah, I think this past year in the playoffs, I heard so many Bills fans saying, I hope the Chiefs beat the Dolphins because I want the Chiefs at home. And I'm sitting there like, I don't, I mean, yeah, you want to beat the best to be the best. But I was like, man, I do not want to face Patrick Mahomes in January. I don't. As a Bills fan, you want to see your team get to the Super Bowl. And for some reason, all the fans were clamoring on the hardest route to the Super Bowl. They're like, let's get Mahomes. I'm like, no, let's not. Let's get someone else and let's have him not eliminated us 3 out of 4 years, So that's where I'm at with Mahomes. So
what do you think about the Rashee Rice situation this offseason that's happened with him?
It's unfortunate because there's a lot of problems in the NFL with players and the law, and Rashee Rice obviously catches the blunt of it because he's on a Super Bowl winning team, right? So he's going to hit all the headlines. He's going to be the center of attention when it comes to everybody else. 31 other teams want the Chiefs to fail because you just won the Super Bowl this past year. So they're going to look at it and they're going to jump all over it and be like, we need to see him at a full season suspension. We need to see him, not on the field for a year. We need to see penalties against the Chiefs. What's his name? Jordan Addison just got arrested for a DUI as well, or suspected DUI. So it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, it's happening all over the league. I think the difference right now with Rashee Rice is there's multiple offenses right now.
Yeah,
that's a problem. He needs to dial it back a little bit and maybe stay out of the crosshairs of the media and the law, really, to kind of wrap himself back around of like, my focus is football, not getting in trouble. So that's the way I look at it. But I don't want him on the field next year because he's a good receiver.
Well, a couple months ago, we thought, he's probably going to get about a 5-game suspension. A couple months ago, we thought that would be this season, but unless a lot of reports are coming out that the suspension might not be till next season, because the court or whatever it is, I don't know much about law, but the court hasn't came to their conclusion, so the NFL might wait till next season. And to be honest, a lot of Chiefs fans want the suspension done with, but I think I would want it next year. I think keeping him to try and chase this three-peat would be best, and he serve his suspension next year.
But to be fair, the Chiefs don't need him to three-peat because they have Mahomes, and that's the thing we learned last year is they could have whoever at wide receiver, and Mahomes will still manage to make a way to get them into the playoffs. And if they're in the playoffs, they have just as good a shot at the Super Bowl as anybody. So I think it's one of those things where it's it's a gray area with Rice because, next year could be a three-peat, or next year could be he could play and they have a rough year and then they're bouncing back and have a good draft the following year and he's suspended. So it's one of those things. Like, I don't think they're going to have a rough year next year, no matter what, whether he's suspended or not. But look at the Jets, right? They were set up to have a great season last year, and 4 plays in, there goes Rodgers. So you never know what you're going to get each season. And that's the same thing with the Bills. We don't know if Josh Allen's going to drop back and have a guy come in and break his leg. We have no clue. We always go into season with high hopes like other fans, but we have no clue what the season's going to bring. And it's going to be an interesting year, to say the least, especially since the Bills have recently lost their number 1 receiver.
Yeah, well, with Rashee Rice, you're right. Mahomes will still figure out a way to get to the Super Bowl, but it'd be a lot better. It'd be a lot better if Rashee Rice stayed because it'd be a lot less more stress for us Chiefs fans because Mahomes likes to put it down to the wire and puts us in a lot of stress and nail biting games. So I'd rather keep Rashee this year because I think it'd just be more easier for the offense. But either way, like you said, Mahomes will figure out a way to get it done.
Well, my level of I don't know. I want to say I don't feel bad for you if you're under stress because you've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, right? Is that what it is?
I think 5, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really have too much pity on Chiefs fans. But, I understand it. I totally get it. As a fan, I said this the year the Bills lost to the Bengals, I think in the playoffs. I got on Twitter and I did a video and I said, every fan base has the same kind of people. We all are just devoted to our team. We all think everyone's against us. We all think we have the best player in a certain position somewhere. We all have the same aspirations to see our team win a Super Bowl. So I'm not going to ever go on a Chiefs fan and be like, how dare you feel stressed about your team? Like, you want them to win a Super Bowl every year.
Right.
We want to see one. we just want one, just one, and then maybe we'll crave more. So it's just how it is. Every fan base is exactly the same when it comes to that. So when I say that, I don't pity you. I understand you. I just don't feel bad because enjoy your Super Bowls.
Do you feel that Sean McDermott needs to do anything better with his coaching to try and get the Bills to a Super Bowl?
It's everything. You know, when it came down to the playoffs, there's things. There's coaching, there's players doing their jobs, and then there's execution of the plays that are called. You can call the best plays ever. If the players don't execute, it means nothing. You can call the worst plays ever, but if the players go out and make a miracle play, who cares, right? McDermott makes the right calls on defense 99% of the time. He's a good defensive coach. Offense is up in the air because we don't know what we're going to get with a full year under Joe Brady as our offensive coordinator. So it's going to be interesting to see what McDermott can do this year, especially with a different core, right? I mean, we lost most of our defensive starters, really, like with Poyer and Hyde and Trey White. And let me think who else. Bond's coming back, but like we lost those three. Stephon Diggs on offense, yeah, but on defense is what I'm thinking with McDermott being a defensive-minded guy. He lost his two safety nets, which is Poyer and Hyde in the back. Trey White, I feel like, wasn't as big of a loss because they replaced him with Rasul Douglas last year. But it's going to be interesting because I think McDermott, no matter what he's got back there, he always has a good defense. And we do have Matt Milano coming back next year. Von Miller hopefully is going to be 100%. I know he's getting older, but if he plays with a flash of what he did in the first year with the Bills, he'll be a tough guy to defend, or to not defend, to keep away from the quarterback. He's a good pass rusher and he's a Hall of Famer. So it's going to be interesting to see. I do think McDermott needs to maybe have a little more, step on the throat when you're ahead mentality. I know he does kind of, some games we have as blowouts, but like when we get a lead on a good team, we need to kind of put the hammer down. And I think sometimes he might lack that a little bit.
Predict the Bills and Chiefs record this season. What do you got the Bills and Chiefs going?
Realistically, I think the Chiefs, I don't think Denver's going to be much of a problem for you guys. I think the Chargers could be a little bit, but then again, they're paper tigers every year. They always look good on paper and they come out and nobody ever knows what happens to them. It's just kind of their hopes just fade, and they do have a good coach now. It'll be interesting to see what he does. So I think that the Chiefs will probably still go about 12-5. Who's laughing?
That's my sound mixing machine.
I was like, who's laughing? What do you want me to say? 14-2 or 14-3?
I was thinking about three losses. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not far off. 12-5. I mean, I'm being optimistic as a Bills fan that they'll be 12-5. Realistically, they could be 16-1. Who knows, right? And then the Bills, I don't think they're going to be the number one seed. I do think the Bills they're going to have a tough division with the Dolphins and the Jets. Patriots are in the year with their rookie QB, so it could turn out similar to how Josh Allen's rookie year was, where they might go like 6-11 or something like that. But I think the Bills will probably go about 11-6, maybe even 10-7, because they have a tough schedule. Just like the Chiefs, we always have the first place in our division schedule, so it makes it a little harder. Which is why I didn't give the Chiefs a higher record, because again, you don't know what's going to happen this year. I mean, it's every year there's a reason they play the whole season out, and we don't know what CJ Stroud's going to look like in his year 2. We don't know what the NFC is going to look like with some of these young QBs. So it's I think those are both realistic expectations for the teams, without going too crazy, especially for the Bills, because like I mean, as a Bills fan, I want to say 14-3, but yeah. I'm not unrealistic either. So I think that 11-6, 10-7 is probably realistic, and for the Chiefs, 12-5, even 13-4 is pretty realistic for them.
Yeah, CJ Stroud is kind of scaring me. He's kind of reminded me of, he could probably do something like Joe Burrow, kind of come up on the Chiefs and snatch a AFC Championship game away from them. But I love CJ Stroud. I hope he stays away from the Chiefs in the playoffs. But for the Bills, I think they can. I'm gonna probably go 10-7. They lost a lot defensively, just a lot, and then Stephon Diggs is gone. And then for the Chiefs, in my record predictions a couple weeks ago, I had them losing 2 games, so 15-2. Um, it's they'll probably lose around 3 or 4, maybe 5, but I had them losing 2.
Yeah, I mean they still have Kelsey and they still have Mahomes, and they still have Chris Jones. So they have a solid core on their team, and they have some pretty young studs too. With Rashee Rice if he stays on the field this year, they have Trent McDuffie's a great corner. I'm trying to think who are their safeties.
We got Justin Reed, and
Justin
then
Reed.
Brian Cook hopefully comes back.
Okay, so I know Justin Reed. He's pretty solid. He's a good player. And then we got that guy from you guys too. What's his name? That safety we took that signed from the
Oh,
Chiefs.
Mike Edwards, yeah.
Mike Edwards. I was going to say Mike Williams. I know that wasn't correct. So Mike Edwards, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he does too. The Bills drafted Cole Bishop, so that might be a Poyer replacement. And like I said, they have Milano coming back, and Terrell Bernard's actually a pretty solid linebacker, I think. Ed Oliver's playing very well, and Rasul Douglas is doing well. I think it's going to be interesting. My biggest question mark for the Bills this year is cornerback 2. They have Kyer Elam, who has been, I would say, underwhelming. He's kind of underperforming his expectations, but he's still very athletic, and we've seen him. He made a great play in the Pittsburgh game when he intercepted Mason Rudolph. I can't believe he was the quarterback in the playoffs. They intercepted him. He's had some flash plays and shows his talent. So if they can figure out a way to use him, that'll really help the defense a lot. They also have Christian Benford and Teron Johnson. So they have a solid core of players. They just did lose some leadership. I think that's going to be the big thing is who steps up and becomes the leader of the defense, because that could backfire very quickly if they don't have somebody out there taking control. So it's going to be it's definitely a big question mark year. I'm not as excited and pumped up about this year as I have been about previous years. So it's a little bit of a setback, especially with Diggs. That was just such a blindside. Tough to lose him. So
something really quick about Kyer Elam. Back in 2017, the Chiefs traded up and stole Patrick Mahomes. We traded with the Bills. We got Patrick Mahomes, and then we got Trent McDuffie. We traded up, got Trent McDuffie. You guys got Kyer Elam, and now we traded again with the Bills and got Xavier Worthy. Is this going to be another third time? Is this going to haunt the Bills?
Probably. I mean, I don't think Worthy is all he's cracked up to be. I think that it's, he's fast. Yeah, he's very fast. But so is John Ross, Tyreek Hill is a unicorn. He comes out of nowhere, right? And I think the issue with having someone like Tyreek Hill is you saw what he could do on the field, and I feel like the Chiefs are trying to find that again. And I don't know if they're going to get that with him. He's going to be fast, and but he's not very big. And neither was Hill. Hill was more stocky, I think, and he could I don't know, he was just slippery. He was hard to tackle. And Xavier Worthy might be, but he could very, very easily be a bust too. Obviously, as a Bills fan, because we traded them that pick, we want him to be a bust really badly. But it's all up in the air till we get to the I lost you on camera there. It's all up in the air until we get back to the the regular season and see some snaps against some real defenses and see what he does. So be interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh, my camera might have overheated, so let me work on that. But while I work on that, what are you expecting to see from Josh Allen this season?
I think he actually might have an MVP caliber season because he's not going to be. I feel like there was a lot of pressure on him to get Diggs the ball a lot. That's one of the tough things to see with, a quarterback who might feel that they're being pushed like, hey, make sure you get Diggs his targets. And now he's got an opportunity to spread the ball out more. And teams have known for years that he can run and they can't stop him for some reason. So I think he might have one of his better seasons. And I do think he's going to actually work or fix his turnover issue this year. And I think it's going to be a very low turnover year for Josh Allen. He could also throw 30 interceptions. Hopefully not, but that's my expectations for Josh Allen this year is MVP caliber season with low turnovers.
Well, yeah, if Josh Allen can fix his turnover issue, he will definitely possibly be able to lead the Bills back into the playoffs, even with as much as they lost. Um, I hope he doesn't get over that. But if he does, good for you, I guess, on that. Still trying to work on this camera. I don't know what's going on with it. But will the Chiefs three-peat? The big question.
It's very hard to do. Um, I mean, it's doing what they're doing is kind of it's out of this world right now. They're playing very, very good football every year. And then again, once they get in the playoffs, they're dangerous. So it's possible they can do it, but it is very, very hard to three-peat. I don't know if it's ever been done. I know the Bills went to 4, but they didn't win one. So it's they got a lot of teams to get over to get there, but they're definitely capable of doing it. I would say, with Mahomes, with Andy Reid, with Kelsey, they're very, very capable of doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm a little biased here, but I think they're gonna get it done. I think they're gonna get the job done. Um, I think the guys. I'm more excited this year than I was last year. I just had a big feeling the Chiefs were gonna get it done last year, and we did. But for some reason, I feel like the Chiefs are gonna get it done this year. I have an even better feeling than last year. I feel they're gonna get it done.
Well, that's definitely a feeling you can have. I think as fans of the teams we are, the past couple of years, we thought we were going to witness the first one for the Bills. Like we really did feel that in the beginning of the season. And that's what's so beautiful about the NFL is at the beginning of the season, we all have aspirations of a Super Bowl. There might be some teams that are fully aware they're in a rebuilding year, but I do feel the top of the league, the top quarterbacks in the NFL, they all have the aspirations of getting there, and their fan bases are just as behind them as the players are. So I think it's a Josh Allen, a Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, and then in the NFC we got Jordan Love coming up as a phenomenal QB2. Jared Goff is looking good on the Lions, and then the 49ers are always going to be there, and then you still got the Jets and you still got the Dolphins and you still got the Chargers and other teams that could kind of pop up. Even the Colts, I think, are actually could be a scary team with Anthony Richardson. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. But I think if you have that guy under center that you believe in 100%, you'll have the aspirations at the beginning of the season that your team could be there in the end of the year. But I mean, as Chiefs fans, why wouldn't you think more than everyone that you're going to win it again? Why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. Who's the Bills' most underrated player?
Whew. Underrated. I would actually probably say Terrell Bernard. He's kind of gone under the radar as a linebacker, because he's smaller, and we got rid of Tremaine Edmonds in free agency, and then Terrell Bernard came in. He was a 3rd-round draft pick, and I think he made a little bit of a name for himself last year, but I don't think fans outside of the Bills fan base realize how good he actually could be, with his ball hawk skills, always being around the ball, always in on tackles, forcing fumbles, interceptions, speed, everything. And just his intelligence and his leadership as a young guy, I think it's somebody that could grow into be one of the greater linebackers. And the Bills have had some really good linebackers. Don't get me wrong. They had, Takeo Spikes, and they had Darryl Talley, and they had Cornelius Bennett, and some really, really good ones. I know I'm London Fletcher. I'm trying to think of all the ones I remember. But Terrell Bernard is a very, very good player, and I just think he's kind of under the radar right now. And in that case would be underrated. So there's some other players out there, that I think will make names for themselves this year, like Dalton Kincaid and James Cook again. Had a little bit of a breakout last year. And then the Bills' offensive line is always, I feel, underappreciated because Josh Allen does so much behind the line of scrimmage. So I think they could be a little bit underrated. They had a really good season last year too. So.
I'll give you the Chiefs' most underrated player. He's on the defensive line. He's a pass rusher. You got Mike Dana. He gets about 6 sacks every single season. He's really underrated. He's a rotational pass rusher, and to come in here and get 5-6 sacks every year, that's good. I think he's going to take a massive step up, especially with Charles Omenihu going to be out for the first half of the season most likely. I think he has the potential to get 8 or 9 sacks. So we'll just have to see what happens with him. But for the last question, what team do you hate the most in the NFL?
Dolphins.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay. What's your reasoning for that? Other
I
than
think
division.
I actually am I'm connected with a lot of Dolphins fans on Twitter, and I like most of them. But some of them, man, they're just brutal. I mean, and they'll say the same thing about us. You know, they'll say that we are celebrating to his concussions, which is incorrect. I mean, I can't speak for every Bills fan, other fans, but I don't want any player to get hurt in the field. Um, I just think the Dolphins fan base, and I have a really good friend of mine who's a Dolphins fan, and he and I get along very well, and we have really good conversations. I just think they're the big rival right now. And the crazy thing is we don't split with them very often. We usually beat them twice a year, and sometimes three times in the playoffs. So they're like the Jets would probably be more of a rival. I feel like their fan base isn't as obnoxious. And that's why it's like easier to despise the Dolphins. And then the Chiefs is, I actually respect the Chiefs fan base. I get along with most Chiefs fans on Twitter as well. And I know that even that back in the end of the Super Bowl when you're having your parade and that shooting happened, kind of people united behind you guys, and that was awful to see. And you hate ugliness in the world. I hate ugliness in the world, and I just try to be a decent human to like every fan base because we're all just supporting our team, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to hate somebody because they support the Dolphins. Doesn't mean I have to like the Dolphins. I don't like the Dolphins. I hope they lose every game, but I don't hate them. So that's the way I live my life, and it's a good way to go. Same thing with Chiefs fans. I wish you guys a healthy season and a lot of fun. And I hope the games we play are good and entertaining. Obviously, I hope we win, and you hope you win, and that's exactly how it should be. So no ill will against any fan bases. Just do your thing and support your team with pride.
Yeah, right back at you. Well, I want to thank you for making time to come on the show. Any last words? If you want to tell people where they can find you on Twitter, if you want to do that.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is right in my name. Bill's Car Guy _ in there. I interact on Twitter a little bit less lately just because it's been the NFL offseason is kind of boring. And Twitter's kind of a nasty place when there's no football to talk about. People are pretty mean to each other on there. So I kind of just keep my peace on there and just wait till football season starts. But I love interacting with people and, love connecting with anybody from any fan base. So that's where you can find me on there. That's pretty much it. I don't really go on much other social media at this time. So I appreciate you having me on, Bryce. It's real nice to talk to you.
Thank you for making the time to come on.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
You too.